So you want to do pointed pen calligraphy, but you have no idea where to begin. Don't worry, I got you. Let me walk you through everything you need to know. The first thing you must know is that pointed pen is highly dependent on the materials you use. Unlike brush pen calligraphy, where you can get away with using poor quality materials, pointed pen is not as forgiving. But we'll discuss that in a bit. These are the four things you need. First up, pen type and nib. There are two types of pen, straight and oblique. The difference between the two is the flange. The straight pen does not have a flange, so the nib remains straight. For the oblique pen, the flange comes at a slant, which gives the nib an angle. I highly recommend using oblique pen because it's easier for the hand to use. You can buy these online or at an art store. Just make sure that it's good quality. There's no need to splurge on expensive ones. As for the nib, there are many types of nib available, so a rule of thumb is to look for pointed ones, like these. Your nib should be able to make thin upstrokes and thick downstrokes with ease. There are also other characteristics like the volume of ink the nib body can hold, elasticity, and the flexibility of the tines, but I think that is too much information for a beginner. I use the G series nibs and highly recommend them. What brand you use is also up to you, but I rotate between Nikko G and Tachikawa G. They are good for beginners and easy to get started with. For ink, you can pretty much buy whatever you want. Just make sure that it's suitable to use with pointed pen. Most people recommend Sumi ink, which is the best choice, but if it's unavailable or expensive for you, then you can just use watercolors or gouache. Here, I'm showing you how I make ink using the Sakura watercolor travel kit. This is an easy and cheap alternative if you don't feel like spending money on buying different colors. Just check that your paint is smooth and saturated enough for use. Make sure to get rid of any lumps or particles, or else the ink won't flow well from the nib. If you watch my HSR nib calligraphy series, this is how I get the colors you see in those videos. It's a good way to practice without using up the fancy inks. You should reserve the fancy ink for professional work or gifts. If you would like to try different inks, get the smallest bottles possible and experiment before purchasing the larger ones. Paper. For paper, you can use various GSM papers. Higher GSM doesn't always equal to good quality. Here's a test I did using different papers. Do you see how these two are 80 GSM papers yet have different results? And how this 80 GSM paper has a similar result to the 120 GSM paper. So instead of only focusing on the GSM, look for smoothness and fineness of the paper when you buy. You want a paper that allows your nib to glide smoothly across the surface without ink bleeds or paper fibers catching onto the nib. In general, I recommend 120 GSM paper for practice. For guidelines, you can use my free guideline sheet, which I'll link in the description. All my free resources are compatible with both brush pen and pointed pen. You can also use lined paper and draw the guidelines yourself. Now, before you go shopping, hold your horses. So remember how I said earlier that pointed pen isn't forgiving? Yeah, this is where it comes into play. You see, buying nibs, inks, and paper isn't as simple as it seems. Your ink and paper on its own could be good, but the combination might not work well with the nib. The paper and nib might be fine, but the ink doesn't suit the paper. Here's a paper test from before. This is the combination of 4 different nibs, 8 different inks, and 9 different papers. As you look closely, you will see that different inks look different on different papers. Some nibs work better with one paper or one nib than the other. This stuff can be extremely frustrating to deal with because you spend money and it doesn't work out and then you think that you're the problem. My best advice would be to see if you can buy small bottles of ink, sample paper, and try two different nibs. Then you can mix and match. To determine what's best for you, go through this checklist. Look for feathering, your nib getting caught onto paper, and ink bleed. Check how clean and crisp the final pieces look. From there, finalize what works for you and what doesn't work, and proceed to buy more of the supplies that do work for you. So these are the combinations that work for me. And this is usually what I see recommended by other people. Technique and study materials. I'll make a detailed video on pointed pen technique and alphabet follow along soon, but for now, know this. Hold your pen naturally like you would with a normal pen. Line up your nib with the slant line of the guidelines. Light pressure as you go up and heavy pressure as you go down. Keep your nib facing up at all times. Pointed pen technique is more complicated than a brush pen, so look out for those videos. Just like brush pen calligraphy, you need to know the basics. So practice the basic strokes, alphabets, and etc. 10 minutes per day is good enough. Just focus on getting the technique right. And like I always say, stay disciplined and do not give up. This tool is hard for beginners. I started learning pointed pen in January 2024, and to this day I struggle with it. I am in no way, shape, or form a master, and I still have so much to learn, but I've also improved a lot with consistent practice and discipline. I highly suggest you to check out Crooked Calligraphy and the Postman's Knock, as they are professional full-time calligraphers in the USA who have years of pointed pen experience. They go into heavy details on every aspect of this tool, which might answer any questions that you have. Of course, you can also comment below and I'll do my best to help you out. By the way, have you seen my newsletter yet? Join my newsletter to get access to a 15-page comprehensive calligraphy tools guide and an exclusive discount to my PayHip store just for my newsletter followers. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.